Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a disassembly for you with this little guy right here. This is the Kansept Knives Reverie. Interesting knife. What we see here is out of the box, we are more or less dead set and maybe slightly favoring show side. Not to any problematic degree, and the action on this guy is okay. It's a little frictiony. I'm wondering whether it's a little dirty, or maybe it's just the DLC coating interacting with the detent ball. Either way, we'll get in there. Disassembly-wise, I'm going to try and go in from this side, hoping I remove this screw, this screw, this screw, and then there probably, if I were a betting man, one screw here and one there. Maybe just one in the back. We'll see. But either way, I'm not going to find out until I get everything apart, so... free spinning pivot. Kansept. Really? Really? Don't do this to me, bros. All right, let's go on ahead and put this here and hold the pivot on the other side there. Now we're coming loose. Okay, so some thread locker is involved. Hopefully that thread locker will not be a major factor on this carbon fiber. Nope, that popped right out. Put that there. This should pop out. Now, yes, okay, we got two more screws here. I was slightly wrong about the locations, but whatever. Oh, because there's the lanyard hole. Hashtag not a brilliant man. All right, so I'll put that screw here and this screw here. It's always important, by the way, as you're disassembling your knives, or anything for that matter, to keep track of what screws go where. I have a little mat that has a section here, so pivot, and then this over here, and then these two. Actually, I'll put them inside these little bits, but that kind of tells me where things need to go back. In this case, I think most of, well, these two screws are the same, these two are the same, and that's, well, there's just one of them, but still, yeah, we'll see. Trying to rock this guy loose, not using too much force, just, you know, having a rocking good time over here. There's a bunch of stabilizers here, so it's gonna probably take a little walking to get this loose, but that's okay. These hands are made for walking. It's just what they'll do. One of these days, I'm gonna actually push out the pivot here, and the reason I'm pushing the pivot out is as I get this plastic swab stuck in there. By the way, if you're curious about this or any of the other tools I'm using, go to nickshabazz.com/tools, although this guy may not show up on there. Is a little swab guy from Knife Pivot Lube, a reusable swab. Ah, there it is. Needed to unlock the lock bar to get the pivot out. Reason I want the pivot out is so I can pull the blade out. I cannot because the stop pin is blade internal. So now the blade is just flopping around in an even less predictable manner. Well, that's cool. All right, so I'm going to use this little pry tool here to see if I can't pop this apart. Oh, it's the lanyard hole that it's hanging up with? Is that the issue here? Come on. Let's see if I can pry it apart up here. I'm kind of keeping a handle on the blade here to make sure that well, and on the handle, but saying I'm keeping a handle on the handle just doesn't, you know, track as well. Is there any other thing that could be attached through here? That's a contiguous piece of tie, this part going into this part, so there's no screws in there. The stop pin is just moving around. Oh, because it's blade internal. Oh, but because it's blade internal, I can just pull the blade the rest of the way out. It's not a fixed stop pin inside there. So we have removed the blade. That's nice. Now with everything loose, what I need to do here is just slowly walk this apart. There's not really, speed is not going to help me here. Well, speed doesn't really help much of anybody for that matter. But anyways, I'm just kind of trying to pinch this apart, slowly walking this off. It may seem like I'm not doing a whole heck of a lot here, but I think I am. Because if I put a little bit of upward pressure here, this is just allowing this little bit to walk out until eventually, there we go. We had disassembled. No real force was used at any point in there. It was just, you know, the process. I didn't even use the force, which is, I suppose, good. Okay, so a couple of things we're going to see. A, the bolster here is serving as an over-travel stop, meaning that you can't... Well, oh, and they also have a metal over-travel stop as a part of the lock bar insert, which, by the way, we have a lock bar insert here, which is predictable by the presence of a screw right there, but that just prevents any lock stick. We have ourselves a stainless steel washer in there underneath the bearing, which will help to ensure that we have no... what am I trying to say here? Help to ensure that the titanium doesn't get compacted by the bearings at some point and be problematic. Just going ahead and clean this off using this little tiny micro swab, and then I'm just cleaning the swab off the camera here. You know, I thought these swabs were a dumb idea at first, but you know what? Okay, I'll give it a try, and maybe they are still, but they're dumb and occasionally useful. All right, so cleaned that area out. Let's go ahead and clean off the lock face as well. And, good. So that's that. I don't know exactly what just shut, but whatever. If you heard a random door behind me, probably the wind blowing something closed. Or maybe a poltergeist, I don't know. Probably just the wind, if I were a betting man. Mostly because, you know, not haunted. Anyways, I digress. Let's go on ahead and go back to this knife disassembly. Already plugged the tools. That's good. I'll go ahead, I'll plug the merch, right? I love a nice polished washer here because it lets you see the... If you look right in the corner here, you can see the reflection of a beautiful I Am Nick Shabazz t-shirt available at nickshabazz.com/merch. It's not a smooth segue. Linus Tech Tips, I am not, alas. Well, for good and bad, right? Man is an empire at this point. Not in the imperial sense. I was just joking about the Force. I feel I should clarify that. All right. So we'll go ahead and pop that through before I start plugging other things. Shabazz.com/checklist has a list of all the things I feel like a pocket knife should have these days. Okay, cleaning this off a little bit here. Yeah, a little bit of gunction on the pivot. That's because the pivot is black coated. That should wear away over time, but nonetheless. And what we see here is that the detent ball hole is wearing a channel in the DLC. That's probably why it's a little gummy. Also, one thing that is worth noting is, let me zoom in a little bit. See this little region right here? This little carve out? That's what we call a detent ball ramp. It helps this little ball right here get back up onto the blade. This is a little detail, but it is a nice little detail. It almost universally makes a knife just a little nicer to close when that is installed, and that is a beautiful thing. Okay, so it's a free spinning pivot. Doesn't matter which way we orient it. I'm going to go on ahead and put a little bit of nano oil, in this case the 10 weight, onto it. And I'm also going to go ahead while I'm in here and put a little bit of lubrication onto the bearing race there. Then I'll drop on a bearing. That should have some bearing on the situation. Okay. And rotate it around a little bit using a watch spring bar tool. Now I'm going to lubricate the detent ball hole here, such that this will naturally spread the lubrication along this path as I, use the knife. It's good. Okay. Now I will drop a little bit of lubrication onto the bearing race here. Well, not race, onto the blade where the bearing contacts it. And rotate, rotate, rotate. Okay. Am I leaving parts out? No. Let's go ahead and drop this into place. And I'm going to need to probably undo the lock bar, like press the lock bar down for everything to snap in. The reason for that is that the lock bar, by definition, has to press against the blade bottom here in order for it to hold the knife. And so when that's trying to press, it's hard for everything to align properly. It's just, it makes life easier. Okay, next up I have a pair of screws. I have this screw here. And I am not going to bother with any thread locker because it is a captive internal screw. Shouldn't come loose. All right, come on. There we go. So what was going on there is I was, screwing the screw in, but then I was realizing this is taking more effort than I want it to. This should be going in easy, so I made the assumption that I was currently attempting to cross thread, just like this. So I back it up a little bit until it sort of clicks just like that. And then, come on. Clicks again, there we go. Now I turn it and I can do it pretty effortlessly. See, I'm just kind of bracing the driver against the base of my hand there, then just turning it with the very tips of my fingers. The amount of force I'm using here is very, very small. Okay, next up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install the pivot. You might be asking, Nick, why not install that first? Well, actually, I don't want to install that until I'm sure I don't have to dick around with these screws anymore. So I'll go ahead and I'll clean off the pivot just by kind of running it in between these guys here. My goal here is just to remove the ghosts of thread lockers past. What is it with me and ghosts today? Go figure. Ghost figure. Okay, using some blue thread locker on a stick. Put that in place. And maybe I'm just indulging in a moment of reverie here. Okay, so that's tightened up. Now, at this point in time, everything should be functioning fine because the pivot is in position and the structural screws in the back here are in position. So that looks good. And it's a little over tight, I think, and this blade centering is okay. Let's see if I can loosen it just a scotch here. It's a little freer. Yeah, that feels better. We are still centered. Okay, I'm happy with that action. So the last step here is going to be to push the, to put the inlay back in place here. Bolster, I suppose. Well, this isn't the bolster. This is the non-bolster. I don't know what you call that part. The platester. Get it? Because it's not a bowl. Okay. So that was weak. I'll admit that freely. My freaking wife puts up with so many puns. I can't even imagine. Why did she marry me? What the hell was she thinking? Anyways, I digress. Okay, so we have everything. It is a little smoother. Nice. Yeah, we have everything running here. Everything looks good. A little smoother, a little nicer. Ready to go, ready to carry. There we go. Hope this has been interesting to you and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.